99.3 Nigeria. For good morning to you, Lagos. Welcome to the second part of Dailies today for today, Tuesday, right? I am Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Jimi. Disu. Good morning.
You can watch us on Facebook and on YouTube. Nigeria Info 99.3 is how you can watch the show this morning on Facebook and on YouTube. So you're welcome. Let's start with our first story today. It's in Vanguard newspaper, page 9. This story reads, Tinubu appoints Mohammed as DG NIA, Adeola Ajayi as DG DSS.
Okay, so now this raises all kinds of speculations that the two very crucial security heads, the changing the guards, whether they resigned or he was fired or whatever. Sometimes when you resign anyway, you're asked to go and resign, and that usually happens. So you ask yourself, what could it be? Because you must, if you're somebody who observes things like this, you must be asking yourself, what could have led to this? One of the theories that I have that has probably led to this, now all I'm doing now is speculating. I don't know anything so far. But one of the things I'm asking is that I think that the president must have been embarrassed by the end bad governance riots, especially in the north, where, of course, we now know people flew the Russian flag, and not just that, they were now calling for military rule. And I think that it's possible that President thought that he could have had some intel and a heads up on that, probably took him by surprise. Another theory that I have is that in the case of the DSS, now let me tell you something that I've had interactions with the DSS all my working life. I'm not an operative or anything, but I remember the DSS back in the days, for example, when I was in Vanguard. A lot of you don't know the level of intellect that goes into that organization. And if you engage with some of them, officially and unofficially, highly intelligent personnel who, to be honest with you, have the ones I've interacted with always have the betterment of the nation at heart, but political considerations just throws everything at, either, nepotism and appointments and so on. The last DG, to the best of my knowledge, was not necessarily promoted from within the ranks. That could sometimes provide a disconnect. And who knows, maybe that also had to do with the rush of arrests here and there. Because the DSS that I used to know were interactive. If, for example, you wrote something back in the day, the radio wasn't this, it was more of writing columns and so on and so forth. They will engage you. They will. I remember they had a fantastic, well-stocked library somewhere in Ikoyi. They will engage you and say, look, this thing that you've done, this is it, this is that you will have. So this constant picking up people and arresting and so on and so forth, maybe, just maybe, it has, caught the attention of the president to say, I hope these people are not going to give me a bad name. Because the president, I am sure, realizes that there is life after the presidency. Whether he does 2 terms or he does 10 terms, I'm sure he knows that there is a life he's going to have to go back to. And whatever you might say about him, I think he's also he's a bit conscious of what people, he likes this idea of being seen as a nationalist and so on and so forth. Maybe that is what it is. The third theory that I have is a bit mischievous, and it's just a theory that came to my head and I still say it, is that because of what is going on in the north, the kind of dissent or whatever it is that's going on in the north, politicking and so on and so forth, and because it's losing popularity in the north anyway, or across the country, you can't fault that. Maybe he needs his own kinsman to take care of his own end. Maybe he feels a bit more comfort because the new DG for the DSS is from the West. There's a Yoruba man like him. Maybe that also gives him some level of comfort. So there are all kinds of things that will be thrown up. But the beauty about the appointment of the DSS man, the Mr. I don't know whether it's Mr. or Doctor. No, the DSS.
Okay, the Yoruba.
Is the Yoruba guy. Is the DSS. Is from within the system, from within the ranks, and that helps. That helps. So it's something that we're going to see. There could be more. Who knows? There could be more of this, because one thing that I think the president always puts forward is his own survival amongst everything. That is part of his philosophy. There's nothing wrong with that. That is part of his philosophy. It's my turn, is this, is that, and I need to, It is in that same light that I will make a quick referral to the issue of his son turning up at the swearing in of the CJN, that is Sheyi. I have a funny feeling that Sheyi is there to protect his dad. Maybe there is, don't forget that Tinubu is not in the best of health. Most of us are not anyway. And it's possible that if anything happens, maybe there's a quick pill to put in his mouth or something like that, and he's there to provide that cover. That probably, to be honest with you, anybody in Tinubu's shoes would only trust his son. In politics, when it comes to things like that, you have to be careful. So because I refuse to believe that he would be there, out of a cantankerous whatever it is. The only rational thing I can probably remember that either his wife or his son might have some condition that demands that he gets some very quick attention, and maybe that is why the gentleman is there. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then the president has told all of you to go find something to do. That is the way he wants to operate, and so be it. That is the end of chapter 1.
That is it.
Act 1, scene 1.
All right, let's move on to our next story.
But wait now, I think you will escape.
What's that?
I wonder what you think about this security appointment.
I think I shared my, let me repeat again, is the fact that, especially the NIA, I'm really concerned about the NIA because NIA holds a very, very important position in the scheme of things in terms of our security. So my question is, why is the DG, or why did DDG, former DG, resign?
Well, I think, like I said, that issue of the Russian flag, and it's highly embarrassing. It's highly embarrassing, and somebody would have had to go for that, because there should have been a heads up on it, and it should have been nipped in the bud. It's after the fact that you are now looking for the tailors, you are looking for who produced the flags. It's after the fact that you are looking for who are those who are calling for military rule openly.
Openly, yeah.
So yes, in fact, he should have even resigned even before he was told to.
And when journalists asked him why he resigned, his answer was, somewhat vague. He said due to some family reasons,
but he should have seen
and some other reasons as well.
You would have. There are no folks in this game. You would have seen through that. You'd have seen through that. I think he was pushed. He was tipped over to move aside, and he was just given that honor to resign rather than being fired. And also remember that the other DSS man was inherited from Buhari. And like I said, Tinubu will be a bit uncomfortable with what's going on in the north. And to protect himself, he might be thinking of his kinsman. And that's why I put this man there. Took it from within the system.
Indeed. Now let's go take a look at the Vanguard, page 5. This story is outrage as FG pegs age for writing was at 18 years.
Okay, there's a long argument over something that I think really is probably the least of our problems now. All you need to do is peg admission for universities at 18. So whether a student writes WAEC at 14 or whatever, that's his business. He ain't going to get into university until he's 18. So I don't really see, you should let people try. If you have a child who is brilliant at 11, who can write WAEC, let him write WAEC. What's wrong with that? But what it is that he's not going to get into a higher institution that I agree with at 18, because it's not just about academics. It's also about maturity. If we want to treat, we should continue to treat our university students as adults. It is what I call being a practicing adult. The behavior some of us have today is from our university days, from secondary school, when you're under the supervision of your parents, to when our people need to let our children grow. Just like the quarrel I had with a younger friend of mine, who the children vacated on Friday. By Monday again, they were going to French school. They were going to after school this and holiday this. Let them breathe. Stop rushing your children. It's usually, what is the hurry? Where are you rushing to? So, like I said, it's just the modus operandi that I quarrel with. Let them write. Let anybody write WAEC, either at 18 or 81. Okay, it should be a free examination. You can, and if that's your results, so be it. But you can then say only adults will go to university, which I agree with. I don't think anybody should be within the four walls of a university, because what happens at the end of the day, they have all these degrees, but they are not matured. It was even better in our days. The system we had then was better in that you would do O levels, you will do A levels, which ended in December. Then university is not going to resume until September. So what would you do? You go to work for 9 months, either as a teacher. We had them as teachers. That's how I had the late Mr. Akin Lee as my teacher. My big cousin, Mr. Remi Akintoye, he taught me. Mr. Oyekon, I saw him about 2 weeks ago, and he was telling everybody, I taught him. He taught him. We had, and so what he meant is that I also worked in the Ministry of Justice for 9 months before I went to, but that was of my own making, before I went to uni. By the time I got to uni, I'd worked for 9 months in an adult environment. So, it makes universities easier to handle. Universities, when I hear, for example, that you have PTA and so on, it's ridiculous. When are the children going to grow up? Is it a youth corps? When you don't allow undergraduates use phones because of so-called discipline, it's also because we've lowered the bar. Yes. If a child an adult because whether you like it or not, 18 is an adult. I tried to inquire about my son's whatever from his school when he was in the States. They wouldn't talk to me. Sorry, we don't know you. We know him. Now me they pay. I was the one paying. I was the one bringing out the money, but they don't know you, and that's the way it should be, so that our kids can be responsible early enough in life. But everybody frets. You find no. I think generally again, we always need to think deeply into the things that we do. And for God's sake, Nigerians should stop fretting. You go to church, you don't have faith. You pray 5 times a day, you don't have faith. Your physical presence is not going to stop. I've had people, you want to bring, a child is coming, like here, for example. I've had people, you want your child to work here, or work somewhere, say, oh, I want the child to come and do, what do we call it now?
Intern.
Intern. But you bring him down. Let him come. Are you going to be following him to work every day? And what we think is that it's always under the guise that, I want to do the best for my child. What you're doing, you're giving sugar to a diabetic.
Oh.
Go and check that phrase, a fallacy. You're giving sugar to a diabetic, meaning that you're giving him something sweet we need to let our children grow, and let's take our own egos out of the way. My child graduated at 16. And so what? So that's my theory. Let anybody do WAEC. It's not WAEC's business to ask for your age. If somebody does the exam and he passes, certify him. But you have the right at admission, and I agree with that nobody should be applying for JAMB who is less than 18.
Indeed. Let's go
How old were you when you were an undergraduate?
I think I got into school at 19.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your playing football days were gone. I was just talking about 18. Reminds me, my friend is 70 today. I will greet him very well at 9 o'clock. John Taiwo Nobote. If I tell you what that guy did when we were 18, I still owe him 80 naira.
89.
I won't be 89. If you listen at home,
That was, I mean, a lot of money.
it was a lot of money. I ran into a problem. At 18, I just finished A level. I ran into a problem. He bailed me out. And nobody, it was hush hush. They were friends, friends were very tight in those days.
Yeah.
Omo, wahala did they go? And he said, Jimmy, you don't worry. Don't worry. And he gave me the 18. I've not forgotten till today.
Oh.
So for his birthday present, I'm going to give you the 18 naira back with interest. Happy birthday, Taiwo. I'll see you at 9.
Let's look at the metro page of the Punch newspaper.
Okay. I'm sure you're wondering what I needed 18 naira for.
No, I'm not wondering. I didn't want to ask.
The person who gave the 18 naira to is long dead.
Oh.
He's long dead. Youth. You sow your wild oats, you make your mistakes. So that by the time you finish university, you are ready to be a man. By the time I finished university, my first job was as an assistant editor. It was a big responsibility. But you were ready. You understand? You were ready. You are postponing the evil day. You want to check your undergraduate's phone. You want to put them under control. No. That is when you are a practicing adult. You will drink, you will smoke, you will do all kinds of things. And later on, you will learn that, that you've been there, done that. You come out as a better adult and ready for the challenges of life. That's why you find people, even now, as adults misbehaving because they had a denied childhood. They were not allowed to grow. And people need to learn that. Oh, the times are very difficult. The times have always been difficult. The world has always been a difficult place to live in, given the environment and circumstances of that time. I need to do a whole session on this.
I think so too, yeah.
So what do we have here? Kidnappers abduct Ogun State University student in Lagos. What? A 300 level student of University of Agric, Christiana Idowu, along Ikorodu Road last week. And they are demanding a 3 million ransom before they could release the student. That Christiana had left her home in Itaoluwo area of Ikorodu and was going to Unilag, where she was observing her industrial training before she was abducted by the kidnappers. Wow, right bang in the middle of the city. It's a story I think you might want to read, and it also puts everybody on alert. I hope the police would quickly find a way to find the poor girl. ASU protests LASU lecturers' dismissal. Brand VC enemy. This LASU problem with their lecturers would never really go. Keeps coming and going with every new. And also, Sheriff, you heard the story of the monarch's son who was killed over the weekend.
Yes.
His name is Demola, and he's the first son of the Ojomo of Nigeria land. May his soul rest in perfect peace. This was done in Agungi area. The question is, we don't know whether he was assassinated or it was a robbery. We are not too sure about what it could be. Kanu family declares customs officer missing in Lagos. So what else do we have from Lagos State News? Ogun IRS seeks Lamata assistance to boost revenue. And not much in the papers today. Not much. But the worrying one is for somebody to be kidnapped along Ikorodu Road. It means it could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. So the kind of comfort that you think you now have, it could have been Ikorodu Road, it could have been at a supermarket in VI, it could be anybody. So all of us need to be on full alert now.
What was this expected? The surge in kidnapping? The surge?
Oh, I knew it was just a matter of time because, back in the day we had robbery to contend with. Now there's nothing to rob. Even pickpockets have nothing to pick from the pocket. So now the lucrative one now is seize a person and ask the family to bring money. Surely they must bring the money. And it's going to get worse. And the way things are going, it is something we will now have to live with. Because I grew up in an era where there was no armed robbery. Today, armed robbery, no newspaper reports armed robbery anymore. It was after the Civil War. Before, in my house in Yaba in those days, we used to put the key of the front door under the mat. Well, about Sunday, they be like 4 a.m. By the time I stagger, I'm able to lift the key from the mat and open the door in my house in Yaba. We had no burglary proof either on the door or on the windows. I used to sit, as a young boy, I used to sit on the windows watching the babes walk by. Because that was our favorite pastime there. Once they are not in school, there was nothing. There was no television, no Netflix, no whatever. It's either to read or to saunter or roam the whole neighborhood. So it's something, it's unfortunate. Once you have an incident like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, then it now becomes the norm. It's because you're not going to run into a police station and say you've been kidnapped and everybody will be going haywire. It's now give you a piece of paper, write your statement. It's now like a common crime. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, indeed. Unfortunately.
So all of us, sorry, my dear, all of us have to be extremely careful. And this might be a time for you to step down. But if you are talking about step down, this was a student. This was a student.
They kidnapped doctors on their way.
Doctors, yes. So it might not
even
be any show of whatever. But let's all just be very, very careful.
Indeed. Let's take a look at this story here on the page 6 of the Trust newspaper. We have 2 stories on this page. Let's take the first one. Youths are angry. There will be trouble if we fail to act. Obasanjo.
And it's the truth. Whatever you might think about Obasanjo, is the truth. Listen to what he says here. He says, Africa has no reason to be poor. Our poverty is not an act of God. We are steeped in poverty due to our poor mentality. We need to wake up because we have a wealth of resources. If you look back in history, you will see that whenever others needed to get work done, they came to Africa to transport black people to the so-called New World to make others rich. It was Africans that built some of the biggest cities in the world through hard labor. Anytime I'm on the underground, in the UK, for example, I said to myself, it was my forefathers that dug all these tunnels way back in the day. You understand? If you look at the emergence of the Jamaicans and so on and so on, that's what it is. So he's right. And he says that, and that hasn't stopped. The slave trade led to colonialism. We enrich others while remaining impoverished. All the resources needed for progress in the world are in Africa. That's why Fela in his song, Africa's Center of the World. You see, don't just look at Fela as somebody who just smokes grass or whatever. Some of the things that he says, you need to look at them deeply. Africa is in the center of the world. We don't have disasters. We don't have typhoons. We don't have hurricane. I don't even think we have as much earthquakes. But all the resources are here. Oil, what you need for making all the bombs and for this gold, everything is here. Our weather is complement. Whether we don't have any extreme weather, extreme cold or or even extreme heat, apart from the Sahara areas and so, which is a bit tolerable. But we are the least developed. And he goes on to argue that we need to awaken. And he says that structural adjustment, which is the problem that we now have here now, structural adjustment was the idea of the World Bank. However, I disagreed because we lacked the structure. What exactly were we adjusting? They were simply deceiving us. Remember, Obasanjo paid up all our debts just for us to get out of this. Now, I don't even want to imagine how neck deep we are in these debts. And it said that although Africa has achieved political liberation, it has not yet attained economic freedom. And Obasanjo argues, we have everything needed to create wealth. No one will do it for us. Well, they want America to help us, help UK in the competitive world. And he says that we must do it ourselves. If we don't act, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder, Sheriff. Our youth are restless, unhappy, bitter, angry, unemployed, and dissatisfied. And a very quick one, a story on top of that is Akpabio to lawyers reject coup as a solution to Nigeria's challenges. And I say back to him, you, your political colleagues, give good governance, and nobody will be thinking of coup. But if you continue along this trajectory, at the very worst, legitimately, they'll be saying they are thinking of a change of government.
At the very worst.
At the very worst. And that ends the sermon for today.
Right. And that's our show today, but you're back at 9.
I'm back at 9. Yes.
Right. Lagos, stay here. We're heading you, where we are heading out. Kofi is heading in for the remaining part of the morning crossfire. Please stay here.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.